In this video, I'm going to show you how to draw trend lines on charts, just like this. So this is with Bitcoin, but you can use it for other cryptocurrencies, Forex, stocks, any financial market. This is the same technique. And trend lines really give us a good way to identify a trend and then also identify possible levels to buy and sell at. And that's obviously going to help us when we trade with those three things. So I'll leave the timestamps in the description if you want to get to each different section of this video, plus some extra helpful resources and other videos that give you context to this video. I'll link down there as well. So firstly, we want to talk about trend lines and exactly what they give us. Firstly, they give us context. So what I mean by that is context of where the price is now to where it possibly may be in the future. And it also, of course, gives us context about, are we in a trend or not? We're not always in a trend. We may be consolidating, which is a trend in itself, but obviously consolidation is quite hard to trade. What you want to look for is, what's the context of this trade, right? Now, obviously this trend line or this trend channel that I've drawn here is giving me context that we're probably in a downtrend, right? And we're trading within this channel. So that's the first thing. Context on the chart. Can you identify the trend in the first place? The second thing is obviously price levels, right? When you're trading, you obviously need to know, hey, what price am I going to get in and out at? And obviously this can help you with the price levels, right? So if you identify this as a downtrend right here, and obviously you would not know this, right? Because we are looking into the past, but what you can do, if you are looking short term here and you say, actually, I think we're in a downtrend, and what you can do is essentially move this around and find price levels that you might want to sell at, right? Or go short. If you're in a downtrend, then obviously you want to see this price level here. It's kind of moving down, right? You're getting lower highs, and that indicates a trend. And what that can do is essentially give us a price level. So what you can see here is that in a downtrend, obviously you don't want to go short at the bottom because you have a lower probability of winning at that point. So if the price moves up to the top of the trend, that's a price level that you might want to go short at and sell in order to buy back later at a lower price. And that's obviously going short and making a profit from the price falling. So you can see it can give you price levels to actually get in and out at, rather than just guessing and saying, hey, I think the price might go down or up. The third one is trade entry, right? So like I said here, when you want to enter a trade, obviously you're looking for a level to in this case, sell at, because you're going short, betting on the price going down, but you're also looking for a price to actually buy back and close your trade. And so the channel or the trend, right, can help you to actually get these levels and say, well, if I'm kind of going short here at 56.8, then where do I want to sell at? Well, we can look at the trend to give us a price level to actually get out at. So the trend channel can definitely help you with context of the trend, price levels to get in and out at, and then help you with your specific price levels to trade at. Let's get into how to actually draw the trend lines then. So the first thing is you need to identify the time frame in which you are trading with. So obviously, if you're a day trader or a swing trader, you might want to look at the day chart. This is obviously a chart that gives quite strong signals. If you are intraday trading, a day chart's really not going to help you. You're going to have to go down to maybe a 15-minute or a 1-hour chart. And what you'll actually see here is that a lot of the trends and channels appear very, very differently. So if you're day trading, obviously these channels are going to be different because they're intraday, and so smaller price movements appear to be larger on the chart, right? And so you can definitely see channels here. So this obviously, you're looking straight away at kind of an uptrend at this level here, where if you go to the day chart, it kind of looks a little bit different. And so that really depends on what time frame that you trade on. If you're a day trader, go for a shorter time frame. If you are a swing trader, or you just kind of want to get better entries for your long-term trades, look at that as a start. The second is to find key price levels. So what I mean by that is we're just going to kind of ignore this part of the chart here and pretend that this kind of was the start of a downtrend right here that we were seeing, right? So you need to identify kind of key areas where we meet support and resistance with the trend. And you can definitely, find these just by eye. So there's no way that we can identify this with a mathematical equation or something. You just have to look and say, where is the trend? So you kind of draw on these key areas where you can see the price moves up and then kind of gets rejected or supported from. So obviously in a downtrend, we're looking at this right here. So we can put this on here. Now what I want to do is make sure that I connect the trend line to as many points in the chart as possible. So what you could possibly do right here, if the trend was, moving on, is start the trend here. But what we can see is that actually that works pretty well, right? So you can actually have, one touch, kind of two touches here, and then it just trades along this line a lot here. So we can put that there. So we won't worry about this for the second. So what we want to do though, what we want to do now is kind of obviously change the chart as time goes on. So one of the key tips here is that trend lines get broken all the time. So you can't just say, well, this is the trend and that's going to be it forever. They change all of the time here. So one of the key things to kind of become better at, and this comes with experience, is knowing when a trend is kind of broken a little bit, and then you have to reevaluate the trend and reevaluate where you're kind of drawing this trend line, because this is just trying to give us a little bit of help where the trend is going. So this trend actually was really great, right? And it worked all the way down to here. But what you can see is that the price kind of breaks through this trend. And so now we have to give more precedence to more recent data, and you do have to change this now. So let's say we came on, and then we're looking here at a new trend, and unfortunately this now is invalidated right here. So this is again down to a subjective call whether you move this and say, you know what, this data is kind of too far back and it's not as relevant now. So what I want to do is actually move this forward and give more precedence to more recent data. And then what you can come do as time goes on, if you're looking here as well, is saying, you know what, I'm actually going to cut this a little bit because trend lines are not perfect. The chart is not perfect. And so another tip would definitely be, when you're drawing trend lines, is to think not just as a line, but more of a channel. So you can actually just, make a new trend line here and then do this. And what this will do is essentially give you a channel where you might want to enter trades, right? Because the chart will never ever trade perfectly. So what you can see here is now I've drawn a trend line. This is obviously a downtrend. The price is falling, right? So we're seeing the price come up to this level here, and then it's come up to the level again and gets rejected again. So from this level right here, any of these days you could start enter into a trade and maybe go short because this trend is continuing. So choose the time frame definitely, and also give more precedence to more recent data. And then obviously when you are drawing a trend, don't think that the price is going to just come up to a line perfectly and then come off. It's an area, and it might be within that area, and you have to give that maybe, whatever you're trading, it's different, but 0.5% or 1%, whatever it is, as a kind of area, and say it's either a trade entry or it isn't, and obviously go from there. So like I just mentioned, you have to give precedence to the more recent data. And something that's more difficult as well is to try and obviously use trend lines with what's going on in the real world. And this is obviously way more difficult. What I mean by this is, what we can see is that I've drawn an uptrend here, right? So what I've done again is just drawn the trend, obviously from these significant price levels where, the price is coming off, but then you get these bounces, right? And that's obviously a very long-term trend. I'm looking at the day chart here over a period of months. And what you can see actually is we have this sell-off, right? And so is that a new trend to the downside, or are we just coming back to an uptrend that we're going to bounce off again and continue? And the answer is you have to understand what's going on in the market at that current time, which is obviously very difficult. Definitely come into the public Discord server that we have. I'll link it in the description and pin it as a comment. Obviously, it's a trading group and other groups in there as well where you can, kind of keep up to date with lots of things. But what we can see is we have to give precedence to more recent data and also what's going on in the market. What you can actually see here is that traders were trying to push the price back up at this level. And the reason for that is because they were looking at this longer trend and saying, you know what, this is actually a level that should have some support. And they did try and kind of, push the price up to this trend again. But what we have to do is give precedent to recent data over. And so obviously we're looking at this downtrend here. This uptrend here, this is now invalidated. So it really has to be forgotten. Now we can come back to certain price levels later, but we definitely have to look at more recent data. And what you can see is at some point, which actually was this point right here, basically trends get completely invalidated, and then we have to move on and look at more recent data and come up the chart in a different way and start again with our chart with the more recent data. The next point I want to touch on is trying to draw a trend channel, because this will help us identify trends over a shorter time frame. Because you may think, well, I can just draw trend lines from anywhere, and that's true, right? So let's just, as an example, say that I took this point and I took this point and said, hey, we're in a downtrend. And then I'm going to draw another, point here. That seems like a, kind of a decent place to kind of draw one and put that on the second point here. So what this is doing is kind of missing the trend channel of more recent data, right? So what we're doing here is that it just kind of doesn't seem right. Like it doesn't fit to the eye. It doesn't look like these are kind of any sort of trend, right? So we have to understand that what you can see from these prices right here is that there's very clearly invalidation of the lower green trend line that I'm drawing, right? And so we're just in a new trend. Now, this depends on your time frame, but also the fact that you have to give more precedence to that recent data. So we're going to take those off and draw really a trend line from where this trend is obviously invalidated here, right? You've seen this breakthrough that definitely is an invalidation of that trend here. And so this would be a new trend channel that we have to try and draw. And then if that gets invalidated, then we obviously move on again. So what we can see here is that this was really kind of the bottoming out and trend change. So we're just going to kind of try and link these up right here, as you can see. And this is obviously giving me the kind of shorter term, more immediate trend right here. So I would say, have a trend channel. So copy paste, maybe put this in around here, somewhere like that, rather than a line, just to have actually, a channel here where the price would go to. And then obviously we want to try and fit that up with a channel on the downside as well to see if we can do that. And this looks fairly good, much better as a trend rather than the one that you saw me just draw, right? So if I take this off and we give this a level, this I would say is a clear trend that we're seeing now. So we invalidate this data right here, and we are looking at the more recent trend. So you can see we're at the top of this trend right now, and what you would see is obviously the price coming off of this top channel, right? So this right here is obviously an area that you meet resistance at. So where are we going to go for the price? Well, there's really two options. You either come down to a level here, or we break through and actually just get a new trend going. So obviously we don't know that, but hopefully that gives you an idea of kind of where the price levels would be and where you think you'd find resistance, right? We actually met resistance along this trend. This is a trending chart now. You can see that we're actually in essentially a short-term uptrend right here, and we're at the top of the trend now. But that trend channel gives us a lot more data with recent prices, trying to predict where we're going to go in here, and give you some levels of, that's probably the lowest level down around 40 that you would expect it to go. And then from here, maybe try and break through here. And if we do, then we obviously have to move the chart again and try and find a new trend channel. But charts don't always trend in channels, but it's good to try and get these channels in to give us a decent, mix of, well, where is the price going to go? It's going to give us three options here. And then we can go and look at the real world and try and figure out, are we in a bullish cycle right now? And that will obviously make us make decisions on where we want to go long or short, or if we want to go short the chart or long the chart, dependent on what's happening in the real world. If you want to know more about that, definitely come and join the public Discord server. I'll leave some links to other videos, including support and resistance below, which are really important to know as well, which go along with trend channels and give more context. So check out the description if you want to see those videos. I'm James with MoneyZG. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.